It's a pleasure to be here to join Governor Baker and Speaker DeLeo in celebrating the 30 years of Roca. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you to celebrate not only the extraordinary contributions that Roca makes to the lives of young people and to communities, but to also celebrate Molly's extraordinary leadership. She is a national treasure. I'm so grateful for her leadership here and that her vision for Roca now extends to Maryland. I want to also thank Sandra and Damien for sharing their stories and their experience. I want to tell them how much I'm encouraged and hopeful because of the ways in which they have changed their lives. And I will tell you, part of why I'm so encouraged and inspired by their stories is because I hear in their stories and their experience echoes of my own. I grew up in New York City. I grew up in Brooklyn. I went to New York City public schools. Both my parents were career New York City public school teachers. And when I was 8, in October of my 4th grade year, my mom passed away. And I lived after my mom passed away with my dad, who was quite sick with undiagnosed Alzheimer's. So home was this place where I didn't know what my father would be like from one night to the next. Some nights he was sad, some nights he was mad, some nights he would talk to me, some nights he wouldn't. I can recall one night when he woke me up at 2 in the morning and said it was time to go to school. And I remember being on the staircase in my house as my father says, time to go to school. And I said, no, Daddy, it's the middle of the night, it's not time to go to school. And I was holding on to the banister of the staircase. My father was pulling me on the stairs saying, no, we've got to get to school, we've got to get to school. And I didn't understand what was wrong with him. And that's how home was. And as he got more and more sick, I ended up taking on the responsibility to make the meals in our house and do the laundry and figure out how to pay the bills and keep our household going. And so home was this place that was scary and lonely. But I was blessed to have amazing New York City public school teachers who made school a place that was interesting and compelling and engaging and safe. I had a teacher, Mr. Oswald is my teacher in 4th, 5th, 6th grade. In Mr. Oswald's class, we read the New York Times every day. We did productions of Midsummer Night's Dream and Alice in Wonderland. I was the Rose in Alice in Wonderland with big red felt petals sticking out of my head. He was the kind of teacher, you finished a book, he was there with the next. You finished a math problem, he was there with another. It was a little bit more challenging. And because of Mr. Oswald, I had a sense of hope and possibility about my life, which is what Roca gives to the young people with which they are working. That sense that even when all seems hopeless, there is a better future that is possible. It would have been easy for teachers to look at me and say, here's an African-American, Latino young man, family in crisis, going to a New York City public school. What chance does he have? But they didn't. They invested in me. They saved my life. My New York City public school teachers saved my life in the way that Roca is saving lives every day. But life is not a straight line. And when I got to high school, after my father passed when I was 12, and I moved around between different family members and schools. And when I got to high school, I was angry in the way that lots of young people who've experienced trauma are angry. I was angry at adults in my life. I was angry at what had happened to me, just angry. And I got in trouble. In fact, I often tell people I'm the first U.S. Secretary of Education to have been kicked out of high school. It's true. But I hope that I will not be the last. Right? Because again, it would have been very easy for folks to say, well, he doesn't respect authority, he doesn't want better for himself, so we're going to give up on him. But I'm blessed that folks gave me a second chance, that I had teachers and mentors and family members who, even though I'd made all of these mistakes, were willing to continue to invest in me. And so when I hear the story of the young people at Roca, I also see myself in that story, that it takes persistence, that dogged persistence, what Molly calls just short of stalking. It takes that, right? It takes someone who's there with you who says, you know, you made a mistake again. I'm still here. I still care about you. I still believe in you. I still think you can do better and be better. I was fortunate after I got kicked out of high school to go live with my uncle. He's my father's youngest brother. He had been a Tuskegee Airman, one of the African-American pilots during World War II and a career Air Force officer. And he had chosen to risk his life for a country that would not even recognize his fundamental civil rights. But he had this tremendous belief in principle and in possibility, and the idea that you could make of your life what you will. And my uncle sent me a very clear message. He said, there's nothing that you or I can do about the things that happened to you as a kid. I can't change what it was like to lose your mom. I can't change what it was like to live alone with your dad and to deal with the things you dealt with. You can't do anything about that. I can't do anything about that. But your future does not have to be defined by your past. Your choices, your decisions can define your future. You can create your future. You can write your future. That is also the gift that Roca gives, to help young people who've experienced trauma, who've experienced challenges in their communities, understand that they can control their future. They can make a choice whether or not they will follow the wrong path or the right path, and they have to make that choice every day for themselves and their families. And it's inspiring when you hear Sandra and Damien talk about what it takes to make that right choice each day against the obstacles they face in the community. So I'm grateful for the difference that Roca makes, but also what it says to us as a country about who we ought to be. That we ought to be a country of second chances. That we ought to be a country that believes in the dignity of every human being. We need more programs like Roca. We need Roca to grow in Massachusetts and in Maryland and hopefully other places throughout the country that have desperate need. But we also need to take lessons from Roca about our public policy. I'm so inspired by the work that the legislature and governor have done here on criminal justice reform, because it's about saying it's not just enough to make a difference in one set of lives. We have to create systems that support opportunity for all. It also means we have to dismantle systems of oppression. We have to dismantle